Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. It's hard for me to say subscribe, but you know what I'm talking about. It's that little button down there, and if you will subscribe to my channel, then you'll be notified if you hit the little bell every time I upload a new video. We just tell a lot of interesting stories here. We love one another, support each other, and we have prayer for one another when prayers are requested. And that's very often because a lot of us here are going through trials and tribulations in our lives, and we all need love and support and prayers from each other. We have a lot of prayer warriors here, and our prayers do get heard and they get answered. And I just want to welcome everybody back. Thank you so much for taking time out of your precious life. I know that time is very limited. It's a precious commodity, and it's in short supply always. So thank you for spending some of that time here with me. I just appreciate it so much. So today I'm going to go back in time and back to the 1950s and 60s in South Mississippi, in a little town called Lumberton, Mississippi. And that's the town where I was born in Poplarville, actually, which is the county seat of Pearl River County. And it's about 15 miles north of Lumberton. And the reason I was born there is because that's where the only hospital was. There is a hospital now in Lumberton. I'm not sure if it's still open or not, but when I was growing up there, they did eventually open a little hospital, and it was the only doctor there was Dr. Dale, and he was an excellent doctor, and he delivered all the babies in Lumberton and took care of all the sick people, and he was just an outstanding and upstanding, very intelligent and very loving and caring and intelligent doctor. He is buried there in the cemetery in Lumberton, and there's a beautiful tombstone and a memoriam to him. And I remember going to him so many times when I was growing up, and I remember one time I had a sore throat so bad, and I didn't know anything about sore throats or tonsillitis or anything like that. So I was about 14, and I had my driver's license because in Mississippi, you could get your driver's license at the age of 13. A lot of that had to do with the fact that a lot of us children had to help out on the farm, and we needed a driver's license to drive the farm trucks and the farm equipment. I know I even drove a tractor and helped Daddy plow the fields and till the soil and everything. So I reckon I was about 14, and I remember just being so sick. And of course, Dora, there's no way she would take me to the doctor. She absolutely hated doing anything for me. So I was so sick, and I got in the car and drove myself over to Dr. Dale's and went in through the door that said whites only, which was disgusting and ridiculous. I mean, why not just have one waiting room and let the white people and the colored folks, instead of having a door marked colored only and white only, just have one waiting room like it is today. So thank goodness we don't live back in the 50s and 60s and the racial injustice as it was in those days. There is still a lot of work to do, and we have seen that come forward in the last couple of months with the racial profiling and just the disgust and the racial injustice that's been going on. So even at a young age, I knew that it wasn't right. But anyway, I went into the office and sat there and went on in to see Dr. Dale and told him, I have a really, really bad sore throat. So he looked at it, and, back then they didn't do strep tests and all this fancy stuff that runs your bill up. He just said, you have strep throat. So I laid down on the table, and he gave me a bicillin shot in both hips. So by the time I got home, I couldn't even stand up. I was in so much pain in my butt. Oh, Lord, I remember just laying down across the bed on my stomach. And I think my strep throat went away before my sore butt went away. But that sure did the trick. Nowadays you're given a prescription for 10 days worth of antibiotics, and you get a yeast infection, which then you got to go buy Monistat and even spend even more money. I mean, just give me a shot. Why can't it be like it was back when we were kids growing up? You just went to the doctor and got a penicillin shot and you got well. It's because of Big Pharma. Oh, I'm just complaining about everything today, ain't I? But what I wanted to talk about was Pet Cemetery. I remember I always had a cat. I just loved cats. So Daddy would always bring me home a cat. I reckon he would get them from somebody that he worked with there at Gulf Oil Refinery there in Purvis. And it's still there, but I think it's owned by Hess now. But Daddy would always bring me a kitten home, and I would just love it and take care of it. And I had a Siamese cat, and its name was Siam, and I just loved Siam. He was mean. I don't know why Siamese cats have a little bit of mean streak to them, but they do. And back then we didn't keep our cats inside. There was no such thing as a litter box, and I don't even think they had boxes or sold litter back in the 50s and 60s. That's something fairly new. So, of course, Siam, he would, go outside every time we would open the door, or most of the time the door would be open. There would be a screen door which is easily pushed from the inside. So Siam would go out and wander around the yard and go catch mice and everything. And come dusk time, if he wasn't in, I would go out there and look for him and call him, and he would always come running home to me. And I just loved him so much. But unfortunately, he tried to cross Highway 13 and got hit by a car, and so we had to go out in the road and pick up his little body and bring him in. And there was one pine tree down past the burning barrel there on the 20 acres of where I grew up there on Hargrove Hill. So I had me a little pet cemetery there. It was all around that pine tree. Every time one of our pets or animals would die, we would dig a grave for it and bury it. And I would take some wood and make a little cross and write its name on the little cross. So we had us a little pet cemetery there, and it was sacred ground to me because I loved my pets more than anything. I just wish that there would have been a way that I could have kept them from going out into the busy highway. That's so devastating to lose a loved one, a loved animal like that, your fur baby. And then I had another cat named, it was a solid black cat, and I named it Smudge. So I loved Smudge, and Smudge, he didn't, thank goodness, he was smart enough not to wander out into the highway. So he grew up to be a pretty old cat, and he lived a long and happy and loving life, and I just loved him so much. And he had a better disposition than Siam did. I don't know what breed of black cat he was. Do black cats come in different breeds, or is it just known as a black cat? But I remember he was a long-haired black cat, and his hair was so shiny and beautiful, and he would climb up in bed with me and snuggle with me, and he lived to be about, he didn't live too long. I think he lived to be about 8 or 9 years old. I don't remember what he died from, but I went out into the pet cemetery, and when he died of natural causes, I went out there and dug a little hole for him and buried Smut out in the pet cemetery too. And y'all remember the story I told y'all about Daddy's boxer bulldog? The one that grabbed a hold to the old Holstein cow's nose and ate its nose off, and then Daddy took the cow and had it slaughtered and brought the meat home and put it in the deep freeze, and none of us could eat it because every time Mama would put a roast or a steak or a hamburger, make spaghetti out of hamburger meat and put it on the table, we knew it came from the old cow that the boxer bulldog had eaten the nose off of, and none of us could eat the meat. It was just disgusting. But I'm trying to think of the boxer bulldog's name. I think his name was Billy. I mean, after he ate the nose off the cow, we were all terrified that he might attack one of the kids. So Daddy took it out in the woods. He put the boxer bulldog in the back of his truck and took it out in the woods, and he shot it. And that was so devastating. But I mean, it had to be done because it was a danger to any child in the neighborhood or to any of us. And I was still young. I was probably only 6 or 7 years old. So I think I didn't dig the grave for that dog. Daddy dug it, but I remember making the cross for it and writing Billy on the cross. So I was just wondering, do y'all have a pet cemetery? I mean, what do you do with your loved fur babies whenever they pass away? Do you bury them in your backyard, or do you have a special place for them? Do you have them cremated? Or do they have like public pet cemeteries where you can buy a little plot and have them, put in a special place where you can go visit? Just wondering how it's done today, because I don't have a pet. I haven't had a pet in many, many years, so I don't really know how it's done. But I do remember having our own pet cemetery and how much we cherished it. And it was sacred ground. So I know this is a sad topic, and I apologize for that. But yeah, I'm just starting to tell stories again about my childhood and starting to remember them and finally getting my memory back after the COVID-19 near about destroyed it. So y'all please give me a thumbs up and share my videos, and y'all just keep on coming back. Bye guys.